Greetings everyone, my name is Greg. In this video I am going to talk about belief, trust, and hope, and why if these things are not based on evidence, sooner or later you will be played for a fool. It doesn't matter if the end result is a monetary one of a loss of time, a relationship, no matter what it is. If you are believing something or trusting something or having hope in something that is not based on evidence, there is absolutely nothing that you have to say it should turn out a certain way other than fantasies in your head. And just because you have fantasies about something doesn't mean shit. You can buy a lottery ticket, believing, trusting, hoping that you're going to win the lottery. The thing is, if you bank on that without evidence that you actually have, and you put all your eggs in that basket, you're a goddamn fool. The thing is, when it comes to Christianity, this is exactly what Christians are doing in regards to their Jesus. And the problem with it is, I can tell them and everyone before, in a sense, the drawing is determined at the end of whenever we die type of thing, that they're going to lose. And I know they're going to lose because, unlike them, I've actually read their Bible. I know what is there and what is not there. And I know the game that they're playing because it is not one that they have thought of. This is a carefully constructed con that was orchestrated by those that are behind the religion. Christianity is a cult of blood and death, and it is one that does not coincide with personal responsibility or even basing the claims on anything factual. Even their own Bible, they don't go by fact. They go by reading into something and having what they want it to say and trying to find places in, like the Old Testament, to see this points and proves this in the New Testament when it doesn't. When what they're doing is akin to going into a woods and seeing an archer with a whole lot of arrows in the bullseye and being, that's incredible, how did you get the bullseye in every single one? And the archer being, it's simple. First I shoot the arrow, then I go and draw a circle around it. That's what Christians are doing. They have what they want, and then they go back to try and find ways to justify what they want. Fuck the subject, fuck the object, fuck the context. They will try and throw context at you, the atheist, if you try tearing apart what they're saying. But they themselves will piss all over the context when it suits them. This is something that is evident in the comment section of my videos whenever Christians try and defend their bullshit. They will regularly try touting Isaiah 7, where the word virgin is the Hebrew word alma. They go by what is there in the English. Fuck the fact that when it was translated, it was intentionally fucked up, because there was an agenda by King James to push this idea of this virgin birth shit. Even though, if you read Isaiah 7 in context, one thing that becomes abundantly clear from verse 1 is that that story is about King Ahaz and fears he had regarding 3 kings. And that the child that was born, by the time the child knew good from evil, those 3 kings would be dead. This can't relate to a Jesus because it is more of a historical account, not a prophecy of something that is going to be in the distant future. It was something that was going to happen in a very short time as a sign to this King Ahaz. And furthermore, the child that was born was the child of Isaiah and his wife being an Alma, a young woman. She wasn't a virgin, but that is a different Hebrew word. It is the Hebrew word Bethulah. That is the Hebrew word that means a virgin, sexual virgin. The word Alma is a young woman. That doesn't have anything to do with her sexual experience, only her age. This is an important distinction that Christians don't want to make because it rips the legs out from under their claims with Jesus. Putting aside the fact that in Judaism, the tribal affiliation is passed on by the father. Biological father. You cannot have tribal affiliation passed on by adoption. It simply doesn't work that way. There are two different words in the Hebrew for an offspring, which is a zerah, and a follower, which is a ben. These are two very different Hebrew words that could be translated or mistranslated as being the same, and they're not. Because a zerah is a biological child, someone that is your own offspring, whereas a ben is someone that is a follower. Now, a ben, someone that is or I should say it this way, someone that is your zerah, your biological offspring, can also be your follower or ben. However, someone that is a ben, a follower, can never be a zerah if they were not biologically yours. This is a distinction that is made in the Hebrew. And one of the things Mark had pointed out in my interviews with him is he had said about the different words for a female virgin and a young woman, and he had said, you know what the Hebrew word for a male virgin is? And I was, no. And he was, good, because there isn't one. The reason being, there's no way to know if a male is a virgin or not. There's no evidence. There's no sign. There's nothing you can look at and see demonstrable proof that they are a virgin. When it comes to the criteria for Messiah, it wasn't a matter of faith. It never was. The criteria for Messiah were things that could be clearly seen. Things that you would have evidence of right in front of your goddamn face. The person being of the bloodline of the Jewish father, Jewish mother. The people at that time would know this child is the offspring of this person and this person. They would obviously know it. So someone that would meet the criteria of being of the bloodline of David, it would have been clearly known. Another criteria is anointed king. Obviously. You can see it. It would be a matter of record. Another criteria is the building of the third temple. Well, Jesus couldn't fucking do that because the second one was still standing. It's a physical building that had to be constructed. Another was ending all wars. Obviously, it's right in front of your face. You would see the evidence of it, as well as the whole world believing in the Jewish God and so forth. You would see the evidence in front of your goddamn face. The idea of having faith wouldn't be necessary. You would see right in front of your face Were the criteria met or weren't they? And if they weren't, the person isn't the Messiah. They aren't a Christ. Period. End of discussion. Next case. The aspect of miracles that somebody does. As Mark had pointed out, miracles are not evidence. They never were. Because if Christians are going to try and say that miracles prove Jesus, then miracle claims by someone that is Muslim, does that prove Allah? What about miracle claims regarding someone in Buddhism? Would that prove Buddha? What about miracle claims of someone that would believe in the Old Norse, be it Odin, Thor, whatnot? Would that prove them? They don't. Because a miracle is, by definition, an argument from ignorance. It is we don't know why this has happened, so that means it has to be magic. That's not a viable solution. That's not an answer. When you're trying to say that you know something is true, you have to be able to demonstrate why that thing is true. And having faith or hope or trust that something is true, and that's all you got, you have nothing. Literally, you have nothing. And it needs to be recognized that that is an empty claim. The problem with Jesus and the problem with the New Testament is the dishonesty of the people that are behind the religion, because they will take bits and pieces of a verse, like I mentioned with Alma. That is an easy example, where they're not going by the story, they're going by bits and pieces. This is also evident over and over again with just what I've covered with Mark in the book of Isaiah regarding the supposed prophecies of Jesus in the Old Testament that don't apply to him, but a lot of the times, and I'm going to continue those interviews and we're going to continue further into that, but one of the things that you would have heard just in what we covered already is the leap that is being made. That this, like a particular prophecy, is regarding the Messiah, so Christians believe Jesus was the Messiah, hence this is talking about Jesus. That's not the case. Because the aspect of swords being beaten into plowshares and they're learning war no more, that hasn't happened. There are still wars. So to try and say that this is talking about Jesus is making a leap that Evel Knievel couldn't even make. They have what they want, and they see things over here that are, this goes along with, there's words that are similar here and here, so that means this has to be talking about this. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Just because you have something worded in a similar way doesn't mean they're saying the same thing or that the one is validating the other. It simply doesn't work that way. The problem is the sheer dishonesty of the belief system, not to mention with Christianity as well as Islam. They are a dual deity religion. Even though both want to try and claim that they're monotheist, they're not. Because both require the God and the negative. They have to have both, which makes it a dual deity religion, which originally started with Zoroastrianism. It was Zoroaster around the 7th century BC that brought forward the idea of an all-good God and an all-evil devil, with Ahura Mazda being the god and Ahriman being the devil. That is also in large part where the heaven and hell myths come from. there were stories prior to Zoroastrianism of an underworld type of thing that could be depicted as a hell concept after the fact, where people would take the ideas of Zoroastrianism and try and incorporate these other bits and pieces. The thing is, then they're creating an entirely different story. Much like the story with the Paradise Lost by Milton, as well as Dante's Inferno, where those things were stories that were made up by those men. And especially with Dante's Inferno, the levels of hell correlated directly with how he personally felt, and that the punishments that he felt certain sins should get. It is all connected to a personal bias. It has absolutely no basis in anything factual. This is simply the way it is. There is absolutely no justification or validation for the dual deity concept in the Old Testament. It simply doesn't apply. Because over and over again in the Old Testament you have the God saying that it does both good and evil. Because that was the mindset of the people at that time. I don't believe for a second that the God actually exists, but be that as it may, that is in a sense beside the point. The thing is, I can't believe something without evidence. It's simply like the other day, because I had lost the internet for about a week, and one of the things I had noticed in the sky, and I mentioned it to my girlfriend and a neighbor, was we saw a bright star type of thing, but I was like, wait a minute. Initially I thought it can't be a star because there would be flashes of red and green, so forth, but it would never move. It was always stationary. And my girlfriend had looked it up on her phone and had told me that is a binary star system. That the reason that you see the flashes of red and green is that not from the stars itself, but rather that's created by our atmosphere. So it's somebody without knowing the reason behind. And it did say in what she was reading that star, or binary star system, has been used as a UFO sighting over and over again, frequently. Because people look at it, it's very bright. It is something that is seen, if you're in the Northeast, after midnight and so forth, it will be low in the horizon. And as the night goes on, it will rise higher in the atmosphere, or higher in the sky. The thing is, it's still a binary star system. It's stars. It's not a UFO. So it's one, I had thought initially, wait a minute, the red and green pulses, that can't be a star. Actually, it can, because that color aspect is created by our atmosphere. And these are things where a person can believe something, or trust, or hope, without knowing the facts, without having the evidence. And you'll be wrong, because you don't have the information. You don't have the evidence, the essence of what it actually is. And you're running with a speculation or hypothesis of it being something that it simply isn't. And this is what is done over and over and over again, be it with a Jesus claims, God claims, seeing Jesus on toast, seeing Jesus in a dog's ass. It doesn't matter. Near-death experience claims. You can even say UFO abductions, anything, ghosts. I'm not saying that none of those, that there could be abductions that are real. Even my own experiences, I look at it and chalk it up with, I don't know. It could be something else. I could be mistaken. However, I don't know. The thing is, without, now, and do I bank on any of that? No. Even those experiences that I've had, that caused me to look into the subject more. But it's not something that I'm looking and saying, this is what it has to be, and I'm believing, trusting, hoping that it's true because I have an agenda. No. In many ways, it does come down to, at the time, and even now, it's one, I don't have any other explanation. But that, I will be freely admitting, is an argument from ignorance. I don't know, so... But be that as it may, it's the same, and I want you to recognize that I recognize that. So it's one, when I had gone into that in my Losing My Faith videos, I didn't say it because of wanting or expecting anyone else to believe it per se, but rather to let you know what I experienced and what I believe had actually happened to me. Now, there were the marks and so forth, but even those are subjective. I will admit that. The thing is to try and bank everything on shitty data or no data, shitty evidence or no evidence, and to say that you're going to have faith and you're going to trust, then you're being a fool, because you could be wrong. And when it comes to the idea of if there is a God, if there would be a God, it would have to care more about what you're doing than what you claim to think. Because what you think only matters in so much as it will influence the courses and choices that you do make in life. But feel free to leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section. Later, people.